All right. So this is the week of June 1st through 7th, 2020. And as you know, it is the beginning of eclipse season. It's really the beginning of eclipse season because we have the first eclipse of the season this week on Friday, June 5th. But it's not only the first eclipse of the season, it's also the first eclipse since the nodes have changed signs. And since the eclipses are centered around the nodes, it's the first eclipse in Gemini or Sagittarius in a long time. For the last 2.5 years, they've been happening in Cancer and Capricorn because that's where the nodes have been. So this is a big deal. Eclipses in general change the direction of things. They shift things. I like to call it plot twist energy, or it's kind of like a trippy feeling because things happen that normally wouldn't happen. There might be strange events that lead to big life changes. Um, and this happens twice a year. That's why we call it eclipse season because for about a month or two, twice a year, the new and full moons are close enough to the nodes that they classify as eclipses. So you might have one solar eclipse, one lunar eclipse. Basically a lunar eclipse is just a full moon that's close enough to the nodes to classify as an eclipse, and a solar eclipse is a new moon that's close to the nodes. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so this one's in Sagittarius at 15 degrees, and I'll talk about it more once I get to that day, get to Friday. But yeah, it's shifting things. It's shifting things not only because it's an eclipse, because eclipses naturally shift things, but also because, like I said, it's the first one since the nodes have moved to Gemini and Sagittarius. Okay, so I'll talk more about that when I get there. But before I'm so excited. Okay, before I get into the talking about this week, I just wanted to mention something that happens on May 30th, even though I already did cover it last week in last week's video. It's relevant to this eclipse, and the reason why is because, um, well, basically, it's because a first quarter moon happened in Virgo at looks like 9 degrees Virgo. It would have happened on May 30th, which was Saturday. And so basically, what quarter moons are is, first of all, the reason why it's attached to this eclipse is because, like I said, it's going to be a full moon eclipse. So the quarter moon 1 week previously directly leads to the full moon eclipse. It's part of the same lunar cycle. So, so it's sort of the beginning of the full moon lunar eclipse. And if you really want to look at the beginning of it, you would look at the new moon. But the new moon would be 1 week before May 30th, so probably around May 23rd. Um, but 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 the new moon is more subtle, so like things begin, but it might be subtle. It's very small beginnings. Like things have started to shift gears, but not enough to maybe notice it. You might notice it, but it's something quiet. It's something just beginning, something just being born. But the reason why I'm bringing up the first quarter moon is because the first quarter moon is where the sun and the moon are clashing. So there's new stuff happening. There's this tense aspect that brings about change and brings about lots of activity. So that's really where you start to really see very obviously whatever's happening, whatever's associated with the particular lunar cycle. Okay. So basically, what I'm saying is whatever happened for you around May 30th, um, give or take a day, but probably right on May 30th, potentially give or take a day. Whatever happened for you will directly lead to what happens on Friday, June 5th with the lunar eclipse. And again, this is important because the eclipse is a big deal. It could change your life, especially if you have planets that are directly aspecting it or involved with this eclipse. Okay, so yeah, basically first quarter moon. Think about May 30th. Think about what happened then. Might give you a clue. Okay, so let's talk about this week. We start out June 1st, and I don't have any exact planetary aspects happening on June 1st, but so the moon is two signs away from the full moon eclipse, so the moon is gaining light. I think it's called a waxing gibbous moon. So it's pretty full. It's not full, but it's it's more than halfway full, but less than full, basically. And also it's trining the sun. And in Vedic astrology, the waxing moon, or when the moon is gaining light, is a benefic. So I think, especially when it's trining the sun like this. So I think June 1st, the moon, there's this harmony between the moon and the sun. So I think you'll be able to feel the foreshadowing of the full moon eclipse. So you'll be able to feel that energy for sure. But it's going to feel more exciting. It's going to feel more positive. You might just be able to feel something coming, but it's probably going to be a good thing. I don't know you personally, so it could aspect your chart in a challenging way. But more likely than not, it'll be a positive feeling. Like things are gonna change, and probably in a good way. At least that's how it feels so far. Yeah, and then like I said, there's no exact aspects, but I just really like that the moon trines the sun and Venus on this day. So especially around midday Pacific time. So yeah, just some harmony, some free flowing energy, some excitement maybe. Um, yeah, okay, and then let's look at Tuesday, June 2nd. So we've got Venus square Mars at 14 degrees, and that's the only planetary aspect I have that's exact. And then also Moon moves into Scorpio around midday Pacific time. So again, like I said, the Moon is gaining power, gaining light. It's approaching the eclipse, and in general, even once it goes into Scorpio, it'll start. It'll be more exact on June 3rd on Wednesday, so I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But it moves on. I'm getting lost. Okay, on Monday, it was trining these air signs, air planets. But then on Tuesday and Thursday, sorry, Tuesday and Wednesday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, once it moves into Scorpio, it'll leave that trine with these air planets, but then it'll start to trine Mars and Neptune in Pisces. So it's still supported. So just the fact that it's approaching this eclipse, it's gaining light, it's becoming more full, the moon's getting more powerful, it's moving from one set of trines to another set of trines. So Tuesday, I think we're still feeling good. There's some good momentum Monday and Tuesday. It definitely changes. I don't normally pay attention to what sign the moon is in unless we're talking about an aspect or something. Um, but just because eclipses are so potent, you might be able to literally feel what sign the moon is in, approaching, and then also after the eclipse. Um, so Monday and Tuesday, sorry, Monday and Tuesday morning, you might be able to feel the moon in Libra. You might feel airy, you might feel maybe chatty or romantic or maybe sentimental or intellectual. Libra could be kind of romantic and fun and chatty, but it could also be kind of intellectual and thoughtful. Just you're probably familiar with the Libra archetype, but you might literally feel that. And then going into uh, Tuesday afternoon, going into Wednesday, you might literally feel that Scorpio energy when the moon is there. But yeah, again, it's trining Mars and Neptune, so it's supported. I think it's generally an exciting feeling going into the eclipse. And then also, like I said before, Venus squares Mars on June 2nd on Tuesday, and I think this is a positive thing too. I mean, just generally, whoops, shit. Oh my god, this is such a mess. I'm so sorry. Okay. And then the hours are messed up. Okay, so but Venus square Mars, I think this is positive too because it is a squares are generally tense aspects, but Venus and Mars like that friction. Venus and Mars signs of domicile are sort of quincunx each other and semi-sextile, so I think they kind of like that kind of gritty. I wouldn't interpret Venus square Mars aspects, at least in this context. I wouldn't read them in a negative way. Because a lot of times, Venus and Mars aspects can be very sexual or very romantic. So even if they square, it could be kind of just more of like a gritty kind of flirtation. You know what I mean? Like, sort of like opposites attract, or more of a gritty flirtation, if that makes sense. And it's kind of scattered. Venus, there's a lot of mutable energy right now. Mars and Neptune are in Pisces. Sun and they're kind of coupled together, and then the Sun and Venus are coupled together in Gemini, as you can see, and they're both sort of squaring each other. But Venus is Gemini, so she's kind of scattered, and then Mars in Pisces, he's kind of scattered too. So they're both kind of all over the place, but then they're also communicating. So there's this kind of just scattered, almost displaced, sort of frenetic, potentially romantic, flirty kind of energy. I'd say more flirty than romantic because it's not like, I wouldn't say it's super deep. Like Mars and Pisces kind of likes to be everywhere, could get lost in everybody. Venus and Gemini could get lost in everybody. So it's kind of just a light flirtatious energy. Okay, I think I said enough for that. And then June 3rd, like I said already, Moon in Scorpio does trine uh, Mars and Neptune in Pisces. So, Moon is very well supported for a few days. So far this whole week, June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, Moon has been very well supported, waxing, gaining energy, like I already said. And then the only exact aspect, but besides the Moon, that I have for Wednesday, June 3rd, is Sun conjunct Venus at 13 degrees Gemini. Um, so and again, we're gearing up for the eclipse. So Sun conjunct Venus, it's not a big deal. Again, it's just another minor aspect, but Venus is retrograde, so it's sort of delving deep. It is in Gemini, which is a shallow sign, and it's more about just being flirtatious with everybody and not being tied down. But it's retrograde, so it's looking at these things more seriously or more in a methodical manner. I think planets that are retrograde in Gemini are almost like slightly like Virgo in a way, or maybe Pisces, but kind of like Virgo just because they're more focused and introverted. You still have that mercurial scattered energy, but it's also more focused and maybe more sentimental or just careful with things. So Venus is sort of the love and abundance energies are sort of reconsidering themselves, and they're in a phase of, it's just Venus retrograde stuff. And Venus doesn't retrograde very often. It retrogrades less often than any of the other planets. So it's kind of a rare thing. So basically, the sun passing Venus basically just kind of brings this up to the surface. The sun kind of, planets are blinded out when they are too close to the sun, but at the same time, the sun sort of sheds its light on them at the same time. So like it kind of just magnifies the Venus retrograde themes already. And it's setting the stage for the eclipse. I mean, the sun and Venus are conjunct squaring Mars, and then the moon it's basically setting up a T-square that's going to happen. So like there could be some minor situations, that like flirtatious energy, that scattered energy that I already talked about on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, bringing to focus this reconsideration of relationships and abundance. You could be rethinking your relationship situations, your money, what gives you pleasure, re-strategizing with these things and questioning things. But it's all gonna come together on Friday. Okay, so this stuff is happening, but really it's all just setting the stage for Friday. Okay, I keep talking about Friday, but we're not there yet. So June 4th, Moon enters Sagittarius about midday, so you'll really feel it June 4th for sure, because not only, the Moon is in the sign that it will have the eclipse at, but it doesn't happen June 4th, but Moon does enter Sagittarius June 4th. And it's almost like the calm before the storm on June 4th, because there's no exact aspects, but like I said, you'll definitely be able to feel it. And Venus and Sun are still loosely squaring Mars, so everything I just said about the past couple days is still sort of applying. It's still going into Thursday. It's just not as exact. We do have Mercury's sextiling Uranus at 8 degrees, but it's moving slow enough that I don't think it makes an exact sextile till June 5th. So I'm kind of splitting hairs there a little bit, but that's kind of going on in the background. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. So there's this flirtatious, scattered energy, reconsidering your money and relationships, and, generally Venus, your abundance and wealth. All of that I said already is still applying for June 4th. And then at the same time, you have the mental energy. You might be able to more easily have realizations, epiphanies, uncover new information, or look at things in a different way. And it's a sextile, so it's not going to be consistent. You might just have flashes of it, or you might just have one experience with it. Depending on how like depending on if it aspects any of your planets, you it might be kind of significant for you, but you might also not feel it at all because sextiles aren't really powerful unless they're triggered by something else. Um, yeah, and they're, like I said, they're not consistent, so that might be playing off in the background, but it's kind of a minor thing. It just adds some eccentricity to what's going on already. Okay, and then as I've said many times by now, June 5th is the big day. We've got, and it happens midday too, which is kind of cool. And that, to me, I mean, at least where I am in the west part of America, um, just the fact that it's happening midday or anywhere around here, even if you're on the East Coast in the U.S. or anywhere in the U.S., I guess, the eclipse is gonna happen midday. So like right when everybody's out and about, and there's the most stuff happening anyway, where we are at least, that's when the eclipse happens. So that kind of adds even some more fuel to the fire, I guess. And okay, so it happens at 15 degrees Sagittarius. It's a full moon, so sun is at 15 degrees Gemini, and it's making this exact t squared to the degree with Mars at 15 Pisces. So Mars is directly involved in this eclipse. Um, no other planet directly aspects this eclipse except Mars. Okay, and although there is one other aspect that's happening at the same time on Friday, which I already mentioned, and that's Mercury sextile Uranus. So probably early in the morning. So really, you know, Thursday Thursday night going into Friday, Mercury sextile Uranus. But again, that's not that big a deal, especially compared to this eclipse. Okay, so like I said, eclipses shift things. They change the direction of what's happening, and basically, I've noticed. I mean, myself and many astrologers have noticed the effects of the nodes changing signs even months before they change signs, and it's pretty. It's a pretty obvious. Um, it's pretty obvious how the South Node left Capricorn and entered Sagittarius, and that's where all this freedom was restricted, and that was for lots of other reasons astrologically as well. But Sagittarius is the traveler and the philosopher and the religious scholar or the university student, and you've seen the South Node go into there, so all these problems have manifested with higher education, churches, religion, and as well as traveling. So there's been this damper there, and then also there's been this damper because the North Node has left Cancer and entered Gemini. So now there's more luck involving or more fortune or fortuitous energy surrounding short distance travel rather than long distance travel, and also like the neighborhood or short distance travel rather than the home. Um, and in general, I think this should be more of an exciting time because, well, so the nodes in Capricorn and Cancer is just more serious. Capricorn and Cancer are very conservative. I love Capricorn and Cancer, so if you have a sun sign with those, it has nothing to do with you personally. Like I like those sun signs. It's not like that, but they're just two of the heavier energies, and I think personally that of all the opposing signs, Capricorn and Cancer clash the most. There are some ways archetypally that they do flow together, but they're both cardinal, so they're both kind of forcefully introducing their own concepts. And Capricorn is Earth, so it's introverted in one way, but then Cancer is water, so it's introverted in a different way. So they're both very conservative and skeptical, and not very like open-minded in terms of like expanding into an energy that's so different from they are a lot of the time. So for the nodes there, it's kind of like home versus outside world, or the Capricorn is kind of a challenging sign anyway in terms of the archetypes that it represents with the government and the economy and political structures, and then all that is opposing like the emotions and the it's sort of like the future versus the immediate now, and being kind of stoic versus being emotional, and like I said, home life versus the outside world and politics, and being serious, and so, and just the fact that they don't mix well. It was kind of very serious the past 2.5 years, and And you would feel that every, around late June going into July, and then every January or so when those eclipses were triggered, because things were shifting, but it was kind of in a serious way. A lot of it was really difficult. So now that they're in Gemini and Sagittarius, I think of all the opposing signs, Gemini and Sagittarius flow together the best because they're both yang, they're both outgoing. One's air and one's fire, and they're both mutable. So both are open minded, both are curious about things that are different from what they are, and both like expansion, they like learning about, different kinds of people, different kinds of energy. So they both naturally flow very well, and they're both actually naturally kind of attracted to each other. So, okay, so so in general, it's a lighter mood. It's a lighter theme. Even with Mars making T squares with both the sun and the moon, which adds some volatility, and it could add some like accidents, car accidents, or you could accidentally cut yourself, or Mars kind of splices and dices things. It likes to be divisive. So there could be some volatility, but in general, it's a lighter mood. And the main theme here, especially since the only aspecting planet is Mars, which is T squaring, it's a mutable T square, and it's a mutable eclipse. It's a mutable full moon. We got Sun and Venus in Gemini, which is mutable. Moon eclipse, full moon eclipse in Sagittarius, which is mutable, and then Mars and Neptune in Pisces, which is mutable. And if you look at any one particular mutable sign, it's like multiple personalities just in one. So that's why you've got like the twins with Gemini and the two fish with Pisces, and Sagittarius and Virgo are just represented by one thing, but even they are multiple things within just that one archetype. It's like very scattered. So when you're combining multiple mutable signs, it's extremely scattered. Like it's a different kind of intensity. Cardinal T squares are intense, fixed T squares are intense, mutable T squares are intense, but the kind of intensity is scattered. It's frenetic. There's just so many things going on. It's extremely chaotic, and then you add in the nodal energy, which is this trippy plot twist. Where is it going? Fated events could happen. I met this person that, I suddenly decided to move this to this place, or I met this person who changed my life, or I got a promotion, or I got fired. All this stuff starts to happen, with eclipses. Especially if you have any, if you have any planets in the mutable signs in general, this is looking at you personally. Especially if you have anything at 15 degrees of any of the mutable signs. Will affect your life personally. Very much so. Give or take even like 3 or 4 degrees, I'd say. Yeah, it's going to affect you personally. And then even if you don't have any planets, on those degrees or in mutable signs, your life might not drastically change personally, but you will feel it for sure. Like some things in astrology can be a little bit subtle, and you could be like, did I really feel that? I don't know, but like eclipses are unmistakable. Yeah, even you'll feel that energy, and then also even if your life doesn't change, there might be people around you where stuff is happening. Something should happen to you. Okay, yeah, and in general, like I said, I'm optimistic about this because it's in Yang signs. Moon in Sagittarius is it's a happy sign. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and it's in fall, so it's not super able to help out the moon. So that is kind of a damper a little bit, but still, in general, we got the Gemini energy, we got the Sagittarius energy. Um, Worst case scenario, it'll be extremely scattered, like I said. Like there could just be so many things going on, you could be confused. Um, because, like I said, the Sun in Gemini is already doing so many things. The Moon in Sagittarius is already doing so many things. Mars in Pisces is already doing so many things. You've got mutable air, mutable fire, mutable water. So like, it's just chaos. The two, I'm getting chills. The two words that I sort of like meditated on, I say meditated is like very light meditation, but the words I got were chaos and reshuffling. Okay, so yeah, chaos could be good, it could be bad. It's just I don't think I even need to say anything about that. It's just yeah, it's very chaotic. It's just there might just be so many situations where you don't even know, like, what do I even do first? And you gotta just go with it. It's mutable, be adaptable, just go with it. It's very adventurous. Gemini, Sagittarius, and even Pisces are all kind of the more adventurous signs. They don't plan things super carefully. You don't have Virgo involved. So you're kind of just letting the chips fall where they may. You just got to go with it. It's a roller coaster. And then reshuffling. So, of course, like I said, the nodes, the eclipses, everything. It's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. Like you spin the wheel and you don't know, like, some of us might come out millionaires, some of us might come out broke. um, it's a metaphor, but like we just don't know what's happening. So I think I pretty much covered that. But yeah, I'm excited for it personally, as you could probably tell. Um, but yeah, it looks good. I've got a really good feeling about this, and maybe I'm just projecting my own. I do have my own Gemini placements, but I really feel like this is more positive than negative. It's not super tied up with this heavy cluster, which I keep picking on, but this heavy cluster, which I'm kind of blaming this whole COVID situation on, it's not directly involved in the eclipse or the T square. So I'm kind of optimistic about it. I mean, this is like freedom energy. Gemini and Sagittarius don't want to be tied down. They want to be free. Even Mars and Pisces is kind of escapist. It wants to be liberated. It's this really scattered energy. It could, like, a million things could be happening, but the common theme is, well, chaos and reshuffling, but also liberation, and we want room to breathe, for sure. Okay. So yeah, that should give you something to think about. June 6th, going into Thursday, Moon enters Capricorn midday, and as I've said for probably many weeks now, this is generally kind of harder. So what I'm thinking now, it's like Friday, and it's even a Friday. So Friday, June 5th, when the eclipse happens, it's kind of like the party energy. I'm not saying to literally party. I mean, decide that for yourself. I don't know. I'd be maybe a little bit reluctant just because it's such a crazy day, but it's kind of like party energy just because there's so much happening. It's kind of chaotic. It's more positive, or I don't want to say happy because that's kind of too specific, but it's generally positive, very scattered, very chaotic. I already said all that. But Friday's the party, and then Thursday is Moon suddenly shifts into Capricorn, and that's actually where it actually goes exact conjunct the North Node. So the eclipse energy goes into Saturday for sure, but Moon suddenly is in Capricorn, and that's a huge difference. I think that's one of the most noticeable differences going from Sagittarius to Capricorn, just because Sagittarius is so carefree and expansion and just having fun, and then Capricorn suddenly gets serious. It's more constrictive, and then also the moon is in detriment, or the moon is in detriment, and it's approaching. It doesn't get to them yet, but Saturday, June 6th, the moon is a Capricorn in detriment, approaching Pluto, Jupiter, and then Saturn. So yeah, it's like the party followed by the hangover, and then you have to like clean up your house that's been trashed from the party before. And maybe that'll literally happen for people since it's on a Friday. Um, yeah, maybe just take it easy. Like, there's gonna be enough chaos without you like adding to it. I think. Like, I don't think you need to really, you know, yeah, create a bunch of chaos just to entertain yourself. I think you should maybe just take it easy on this weekend. But yeah, so Saturday, Moon gets a little more serious, and it could be like maybe Friday with the eclipse. You envision you have this breakthrough and this realization, and then Saturday is where you think about actually implementing it. Because that can be typical. Sagittarius is the dreamer, the one with the big ideas, and then Capricorn is more about like, okay, let's be realistic. Can we do that? And if we can do it, how do we do it? And actually follows through with what's going on. So something could happen in your life that sort of follows that general theme, if that makes sense. Friday going into Saturday. Also, the Sun squares Mars at 16 degrees. So, I mean, I honestly think you might feel that more on Friday, even though it's exact on Saturday. Just because, like I said, with that T square, and I'm just gonna go back for a second, but I mean, it's to the degree during the full moon eclipse. So It must be like super early on Saturday, or maybe that's from a different time zone. But I think it's more Friday, June 5th. So I don't think there's any exact aspects on Saturday. So yeah, it's like the cleanup or implementing implementing the energies that came about during Friday during the eclipse, um, or yeah, something like that. I mean, I don't want to get too specific because it can happen so differently for everyone, but basically, just the theme is big explosion. Like Friday's like the holiday, or like the fireworks, the chaos, and then Saturday it's like, okay, it'll still feel like intense. It'll still feel like the energy's thick and like things are happening, but in a more serious way, a more like physical way, more like, okay, literally though, how do we do this? Let's be realistic, that type of thing. But it'll still feel that, that high energy feeling. Like I said, even a couple days after the eclipse, you'll feel the moon in Capricorn very potently. And then probably Aquarius too later on. Okay, and then June 7th, I have no exact aspects. The moon's still in Capricorn. It doesn't on Sunday. It doesn't yet. The moon doesn't yet conjoin Pluto or Jupiter, but it's approaching it. So it gets things could be a little bit more serious, and we might be reminded of the COVID situation. I don't think Friday has to do with it a lot, and I'm not saying that nothing's going to happen involving COVID on Friday. I'm just saying that generally all the theater and the drama isn't centered directly on that. So something could happen related to that, but that's not where the main themes are, I don't think. Um, but Sunday, really Sunday, but then going into Monday, which is next week's video, but that's when we might be reminded of this situation, or something might be more likely to happen directly centered around COVID, just because the moon is approaching these planets, and it becomes more serious and more like maybe Friday you're like, oh, I have this great idea, but then you get shot down on Saturday or Sunday or something, or it could change or evolve in a more serious way. It could become a little bit restricted, because it's just so different comparing Friday to Sunday. Friday to me is so expanding and just mutable and crazy, and let's just see where we go, and let's do whatever and be spontaneous. Sunday is serious. So there's a dramatic change. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday might feel like completely different days to you. Like, so much will happen in a very short amount of time, if that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully it's good, but Friday looks more positive than Sunday just generally. Friday's exciting, Sunday is more serious, just generally. And again, depending on where your chart might be good for you, or but I'm just saying, just generally for everybody, that's kind of what's going on. And I didn't mention Sunday, the moon does oppose Mercury, so I mean, that's a very minor aspect. I don't know if I even really have anything to say about that. And that's pretty much it. So we end the week with coming off the high of the eclipse, of this first eclipse where everything's really changing, and getting really sober really fast, getting hungover, so to speak, on Saturday and Sunday. Or I shouldn't say hungover. It might not be bad. It could just be being more realistic about what's going on, that type of thing. And I'm forgetting something. I knew I was going to say something, but yeah. So that's pretty much it. Oh, what I was going to say is Mercury's not in its pre-shadow yet, but it's approaching its pre-shadow. I believe it moves into pre-shadow next week. I'll double check that, but I know it doesn't move into pre-shadow yet. So Mercury is going to retrograde in Cancer. I think it starts at 13 or 14 degrees. Or no, the pre-shadow. I need to look it up, but Mercury retrograde. Maybe Mercury's already in its pre-shadow. I need to look it up. I'm sorry, but Yeah, Mercury's approaching retrograde though, is basically what I'm trying to say. So watch out for that. I guess there's so much going on. I'll just take it one day at a time. So okay, anyway, I should end this. But yeah, it looks exciting. Friday, I always pick a day of the week that's the most interesting or exciting, or that the most stuff is happening. I don't think I even need to say it. Friday, everything's centered around Friday. That's where shit's gonna hit the fan, essentially. Okay, so I hope you have a great week. I hope it's an exciting week. I hope there's positive life changes for you, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.